this is Liz Reed with Just Believe Coaching, and I want to welcome you to my video series on how to quickly turn your marriage around. Our strategy that we're going to focus on today is speaking life over your relationship. So what do I mean when I say speaking life? Well, I'm going to give you a brief definition for our purposes today. To speak life is to use your thoughts and your speech to uplift or to exalt. Basically, to speak well of. So for example, if I'm going to speak well of you, okay, then my thoughts are going to be good thoughts, and the things that I say, they're going to be good things. I'm going to be lifting you up. I'm going to be exalting you. I'm going to be speaking well of you. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to share with you today a brief example of what it could look like when you're speaking life over your relationship. And then we're also going to take a look at the opposite of speaking life, which is speaking death. Okay? Then we're going to identify the three-step process for you to learn how to speak life over your relationship. Then I'm going to go into how speaking life can quickly turn your relationship around. So let's talk a little bit more about speaking life. When you speak life, you are releasing joy into your relationship. You're releasing a space for understanding to take place in your relationship, a space for patience to flourish in your relationship. However, the opposite of that would be speaking death. And when you speak death, you take those things away. You take away the joy. You take away the patience. You take away the understanding. And unfortunately, it's a slow process to beginning to take away the love that you have in the relationship. So the love just slowly begins to diminish out of the relationship. And of course, that's not what we want. So let me share with you just a little scenario so you'll have an idea of how to use this strategy in your relationship. So we're going to take me for an example here. And here's our scene. My husband is on his way home from work, okay? It's evening time. I can hear when he pulls up in the garage. So I run to the door because I'm going to greet my husband with a hug and a kiss. My husband walks in the door. He doesn't acknowledge me. I give him a kiss. He completely ignores me. He doesn't kiss me back. And he walks off into the next room. Now, if you're like me, you're probably a little bit upset right now. And I'm being kind when I say a little bit, right? You're probably very upset right now. But in this type of scenario, when something like this happens, this is a time for you to choose whether or not you want to speak life over your relationship or speak death. So let's take death first, okay? Because obviously I'm probably going to be a little bit upset because I've taken the time out to greet my husband in a loving way, yet he didn't receive that. So I gave a gift and basically he pushed the gift away, okay? So if I respond in death, I may say something like, I hate you. This is why this relationship is never going to work. I don't want to be in this relationship. That would be speaking death over my relationship. Now granted, it's understandable that, again, I would feel this way because I'm trying to approach my husband in love, give him a gift, and he is rejecting that gift. But I also have another avenue that I can choose, because I'm always at a choice point, right? So let's say I choose to respond by speaking life. Same scenario, ladies, okay? I hear my husband coming in from through the garage. I run to the door to greet him with a hug and a kiss. Give him a kiss. He doesn't kiss me back. He totally ignores me, and he walks away into the next room. I think I'm going to speak life this time. So what does that look like? Well, I'm going to give you two scenarios of what that could possibly look like. I could use my speech to speak life. And I could come from a place in my heart, and I could just turn to my husband, even though he's walking away. I could turn to him and I could say, honey, I love you. and then I could just let the situation go and move about whatever it is I'm doing, okay? That's a way in which I could use my speech to uplift, to exalt, or to speak well of the relationship. Now, another thing that I could do, since my husband is basically walking away from me, is I could just use my thoughts to speak life into the relationship. And I could say that same thing. I could say, honey, I love you, but in my thoughts. Or I could say, seems like honey's not having a good day today. I think I'll go get his favorite drink and leave it out for him when he comes out of the room, and leave his newspaper so he can read it and find it quickly. All with a loving spirit. This would be me speaking life over the relationship. Now, ladies, this is not about suppressing feelings, okay? This is not about sweeping an issue under the rug, but this is about taking your own steps to basically create an environment in which you and your spouse can flourish in, okay? So you're always at a choice point in how you're going to respond. Now, more than likely, what's going to happen if you respond by speaking life in this scenario, at some point later, your husband is going to come back to you. He's going to acknowledge what he did. He's probably going to express, genuine sorrow for what he did, because there's something going on in his world, okay? But that same thing is not going on in your world. So what you don't want to do is you don't want to force the issue for him to walk into your world and receive what it is that you have to give him in that moment. Because in that moment, he's not ready to receive it. So give him an opportunity to come back around and be in a position to receive that gift of love. Be in a position to receive that life that's coming from you. Okay? Let's move on. Let's talk about the 3 steps to speaking life in your relationship. So, step number 1 is to make a decision. You have to decide that this is something that you want to do on a continual basis. Basically, you have to decide that you want to form a new habit. If you've been speaking death over your relationship, more than likely it's become a habit in your life. So you've been thinking thoughts that don't uplift your marriage, or you've been saying things that don't uplift your marriage. And many times, what can happen is you may be saying things to a best friend, in confidence, or you may be saying things in your mind but not ever really speaking them out loud, okay? I can identify with that. When I was in one of the worst spaces in my relationship, I was speaking death over the relationship, but I wasn't speaking death using the words from my mouth. Rarely did I say anything bad about my husband or anything negative about the relationship. But ladies, my thoughts were death. My thoughts could have sent me to jail. So even though you may not be speaking it out loud, if you're having those thoughts, and you're having those thoughts on a continual basis, and those thoughts are basically running you, they have control over you, you don't have control over them, then that's speaking death. So again, step 1 is you want to make the decision that you're going to begin to speak life. That's going to take some discipline on your part, and that's going to take a commitment. Commitment to begin speaking life over your relationship. So that's the first step. Step 2, after you've made the decision to begin speaking life, step 2 is to identify the ways in which you have not been speaking life, the ways in which you're speaking death over your relationship, okay? Now, the best way to do this is at the end of every day, begin to reflect on what you've been thinking about. What have I been thinking about my husband? What have I been thinking about the relationship? Okay? And what have I been thinking or saying about myself? Because that's another thing that may be causing death in the relationship. If you're thinking negative thoughts about yourself, or thinking bad things about yourself and the way in which you're showing up in your relationship, then that's also speaking death. Another way that you could be speaking death in the relationship is through non-action. Let me tell you what I mean by that. You may be saying to me, well, Liz, I'm not really, I don't do that. I don't speak bad about my husband or about my relationship. And, I don't do things like that on a continual basis. I'm not thinking those negative thoughts on a continual basis. Well, what about non-action? Non-action is when you're just basically not thinking anything or saying anything to uplift or to exalt the relationship. So if there is nothing there, then the relationship is dead. You've spoken death over the relationship through non-action. Because just like our bodies need food to grow, your relationship needs to be nourished to grow. So you have to be putting something into the relationship if you want to be in a place of getting something great out of it, okay? And you have to be doing this on a continual basis. So be aware of that as well, the non-action piece. So now you've made the decision, step 1, that you're going to begin speaking life. Step 2, you're identifying the ways in which you're not speaking life. As I said, take a couple of days. At the end of every day, reflect on what you've been thinking about. And then what I want you to do is to begin to write that down. To begin to journal it down or write it down on a piece of paper, and do that for a couple of days. It shouldn't take more than a couple of days for the picture to begin to unfold, and you'll see it in writing. And it's really important, ladies, that you write it down, because when you write it down, it forces you to actually look at and think about what you've been allowing to take place in your life, the conversations that you've been allowing to take place in your head, and also the speech that you've allowed to come out of your mouth in regards to yourself, in regards to your husband, and the relationship as a whole, okay? So you've written those things down. You've become aware of the ways in which you're speaking death. Step number 3, this is the fun part. Only speak what you desire. Only speak what you desire. So the question is, what is it that I desire? And that's what I want you to ask yourself. What do I desire out of my relationship? What do I desire out of my life? Okay? Set aside some time to really ponder these questions, to really allow the truth to come out of you, because it is already in you. We just need to bring it out. So go to a quiet place, a place where you can reflect. Maybe you need to go out in nature, take a walk, whatever works best for you. And again, take your journal, take a pad and a pencil, and I want you to write the answers to those questions down. What do I desire out of my life, and what do I desire in my relationship? Now, when you're going through this process, please don't think about what you think is possible, okay? I don't want you thinking about what you think it's possible for your husband to do in the relationship, what you think is possible for you to do in your relationship, or what you think is possible at all for your relationship. Put everything from the past behind you. For some of you, you may even need to put your present behind you if your present is not healthy right now, okay? So put those things around you and open up, behind you, and open up the window of possibilities. So if you're focusing on what you believe right now is possible based on what you currently see or based on what you saw in the past, then you're not going to be able to really bring out what it is that you desire. So you've got to lay those things to the side long enough for your mind to be able to really latch on to what it is you want to have in your relationship and in your life. And after you've done that, I want you to take a few minutes to formulate a 1 to 2 sentence statement. And this is going to be your new belief statement, your life statement, okay? And this life statement is going to replace the negative belief statement that you've been speaking over your relationship. So earlier when we talked about the example, I said things like, I hate you, and that's why this relationship is never going to work. Obviously, that's death. Obviously, that does not uplift, that does not exalt, okay? So if I wanted to speak life, for example, I may say something like, I'm a loving wife, I have a loving husband, my husband supports my decisions, and he encourages me to live my life to the fullest. Now that's a belief, that's a new belief statement. That's a far stretch from I hate you and this marriage is never going to work. So that's just kind of an example for you to look at. One is completely death. The other one is totally life, okay? So you want to come up with your own new life statement. Now after you've come up with this statement, what I want you to do is I want you to begin speaking this statement for the next 60 days, okay? I want you thinking about this statement when you get up in the morning. I want you thinking about this statement all through the day. I want you thinking about this statement when you are tempted to speak death over your relationship, okay? That's going to be your key to speak life, to use your new belief statement. Researchers tell us it takes about 21 days to form a new habit, but we want to actually begin using this belief statement for the next 60 days, and then we'll continue to use that. But at that 60-day mark, it should really, really take root into your heart. Now let me tell you why this works. When you begin to speak that new belief statement, it's going to choke out any of those words of death that have been infiltrating your relationship, okay? It's going to choke them out. And that new belief statement is going to replace those words of death with life. So again, you'll begin to be understanding in the relationship. You'll begin to exercise patience in the relationship. You'll begin to have a genuine love for your relationship, okay? And your relationship will begin to flourish because it's coming from a place of love. It's speaking life over the relationship. Let's just recap. Step 1, make the decision that you're going to begin speaking life. Step 2, identify the ways in which you aren't speaking life over your relationship. Those ways that you're speaking death. Step 3, only speak what you desire. Only speak what you desire for your life and for your relationship. That's how it works. I want to thank you for watching today. I want to ask you to, if you're feeling like that you're needing some additional help with this, if you're feeling like I really want to implement this strategy, but I've tried things like this before, it hasn't worked for me. Okay, if you're feeling any of that, what I want you to do is I want you to go to my website, justbelievecoaching.com, and sign up for my complimentary Fall in Love Again Discovery Session. That's where you'll find out more about my Fall in Love Again program. And in that program, I come alongside you to coach you and to support you in strategies just like this one and many other strategies that will help you to quickly get on the path to creating the life and the relationship of your dreams. So if you're feeling something in your heart, and you'll know, if you're feeling something in your heart that something's missing or you need help with this, there's something more, go to my website again, justbelievecoaching.com, and sign up for my complimentary Fall in Love Again Discovery Session. I'd love to be able to help you and serve you in that way. Also, while you're there, go ahead and download my 10 tips to radical communication almost overnight. Okay, on the website, it's under freebies, justbelievecoaching.com. 10 tips to radical communication almost overnight. So I want you to go ahead and take a look at that and download that, get your copy. Again, thank you for watching. It is always a pleasure to come and bring you some information that I know will help you turn your marriage around quickly. Again, this is Liz with Just Believe Coaching. And remember, don't be afraid, just believe.